Okay. Good evening. We will call the Wednesday, June 27th, 7 p.m. Kildare Hills Board of Commissioners meeting to order, and I ask for you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I now request that we take a moment of silence before we start our meeting. Thank you. First item on the agenda this evening is agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda is the time set aside for public comment. We ask those of you who wish to speak this evening, if you're speaking as an individual, to please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and if you're speaking on behalf of a group, to please keep those comments to 5 minutes. We did have a sign-up sheet ahead of time, and I'll work from that sheet first to call people up to speak. If you did not sign up, that's okay. We will certainly still give you an opportunity before we move to the next agenda item. The first person that signed up this evening is Wanda Wise.
Hello, dear Commissioners and Mayor Davies. I'm Wanda from Just for the Beach Rentals.
Is that mic on?
It's been brought to my attention that the town of Kildare Hills is in the process of greatly limiting our ability for a business to continue the use of outdoor displays. As a local business owner, I am asking you to reconsider moving forward with this proposed amendment. Outdoor displays have been a vital part of the success of our rental business. With the high cost of advertising and such a small window of opportunity to make money, usually June, July, and August for the BOC, we depend highly on our visual displays to support us. 50% of our business is based on walk-ins that see our bike displays along South Virginia Dare Trail. We do use storage units to store our bikes and kayaks because of the limited space we have inside our store. We would not be able to put all of our items inside the store. We strive to keep all of our outside displays neat and tidy at all times, and we would invite each and every one of you to visit our store location to see firsthand our operation and why it's so vital for us to continue with outdoor displays. You're welcome to contact either my husband or myself personally, and we'd be glad to meet you at your convenience. Thanks for taking time to listen to my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next that is signed up is Bill Rosso. And when you do approach the lectern to speak, if you will identify yourself by name and address, and also if you'll pull the mic in front of you so we make sure we can hear everyone clearly. Thank you.
Bill Rosso with Nag's Head Hammocks. I'm also here to speak about outdoor displays. We've been on the beach for 38 years, and we've always strived to have the best landscaping on the beach, most attractive storefront, everything we can do toward that. We've really tried to have a park-like atmosphere, which is kind of rare on the bypass. Integral to that is our merchandise display. Any time during the day that you come by during the summer, you'll see people relaxing in hammocks, sitting in swings. We have people this summer picnicking in our area. All of that is contingent on being able to put merchandise outside. If we did not have places for people to sit, to lay down in hammocks, it wouldn't happen. And it's a huge part of our business. We not only do that at our Kildare Hills store, all of our stores. We take great pride in our landscaping. the options that are presented, option number 2 would kill that for us. That would essentially eliminate outdoor display completely. Option 6 would also kill that for us. A lot of our items are very, very heavy. Quite often in the late evening, we'll only have 2 people working. For them to bring everything in is impossible. A number of our items weigh over 100 pounds. So that would, again, eliminate any possibility of doing what we've been trying to do over the years. For us, the best option is option 1. If, in fact, the board chooses to do something, option 2 would be the best for us. Or, excuse me, option 3, I should say. That's the one that would limit it to 50 items per 20,000 square feet. I went out and counted today. I've never actually counted the items we had outside. If you're counting the items on the porch, we're around 70 items. And I think if you look at our property, we're not crowded. We have a lot of open space on that property without items. So I think more like 75 would be a more reasonable figure for a 20,000 square foot storefront. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about this. It's very, very important to us, and we would encourage you to think this through very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Steve Pauls.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak. I'm one of the owners of the Pit Surf Shop here on the bypass. I'm also a Killable Hills resident, and I too take great pride in our landscaping and do most of it myself. And honestly, every day I look around and I go, man, I wish my landscaping was like his. It's fantastic. To be perfectly honest with you, I think the whole thing is a bad idea. All the options. For a couple reasons. The first is, hey, like the other nice lady said, this really puts us at a competitive disadvantage to the other businesses up and down the Commerce Strip. Kitty Hawk, Nag's Head, those businesses are still going to be able to continue going on with putting things as displays in the front of their business. How am I going to compete against the other surf shops in town that do that? It's going to be difficult. In the bigger picture of things, the main reason why I wanted to come speak was not just to encourage you guys not to, to pass any of these options, but really to express, to be perfectly blunt and honest, guys, I think this is kind of small thinking. And my concern is that this is just one more thing in a list of things that small business owners in Killable Hills have to worry about on the list of no's, you can't do it. And what I would like to see, and what I'm hoping you guys are starting to think about, is how is it that I'm encouraged as a small business owner by the things that the town is doing? I think we all want the same thing. We want more visitors to come and enjoy Killable Hills. And I would submit to you that on the list of immediate things that can be done to encourage that, things like multi-use pass on the bypass, more festivals and events, better landscaping, those are all on the table, and all the business owners here would think that those are good ideas. Now, I know that's possible, but because our neighbors to the south have done it and done it well, and also because when I come here to the town center, I go, man, this is gorgeous. It's beautiful here. What if the bypass and the beach road look like this? What if it looked like the area right out front? Every time I come here, I go, man, if tourists were deciding where to go on vacation based on how town halls look, we'd win. Everybody would come here. So I think there are some solutions to this which are above and beyond, hey, more regulation, more things for small business owners to worry about. And I encourage you to think about those things and ditch this idea and move on to the next one. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Christopher Merrick.
Evening. My name is Christopher Merrick, and I'm one of the owners of Ocean Atlantic Rentals and general manager. My comments tonight are, of course, concerning outdoor display. I am pro option one, which is no regulation. You know, there's a lot of the word beautification in the proposed 6 options, and I am of the opinion that KDH is beautiful. And in the past 6 years of self-regulation, KDH has continued to become more beautiful. I truly believe if a small business wants to have a trashy outward appearance, the public will avoid it and the business will fail. I urge the commissioners to remember that in addition to our incredible beaches, it's kind of the quirky, diverse, unique small businesses that visitors love and they love about this town, and it keeps them coming back. When I think of, you know, the Jolly Roger without having a pirate statue out front, or Kellogg's without their colorful Adirondack chairs, we've mentioned Nag's Head hammocks and their breathtaking front yard. When I think of the Outer Banks without that, I start to envision a Kildare Hills that is a cookie-cutter beach town, and that frightens me, and it's not what attracted me to the area. Should you choose to proceed, I would ask, would you please consider an open forum, something like in the time frame of November, when we can focus on public outcry and some concerns that may be very real, but we could respond to that in a focused time, not when we're all in the 3 or 4 months of summer when it's make or break it for us. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Next is Blake Bouchard.
How y'all doing this evening? My name is Blake Buchard. I'm Vice President of Ocean Atlantic Rentals and also one of the owners. I'm up here just to speak about regulations against small businesses in the town of Kildare Hills. And option one, which is the do nothing option, to me is the only option that I can see. I just can't see how the planning department and the inspection department is ever going to enforce y'all passing an ordinance and a regulation that basically states anybody can't even put a rack of t-shirts out in front of their store as long as it's not contained inside the business walls. I've read through all these options. We have a lot of storage, outside storage. We have a lot of outside display, and it's hard to discern both because even our storage, you can see from the road, all the roads at our property at 2001 South Croatan Highway. So as far as regulations go, totally against it, and unless there's a massive public outcry or from tourists or from the citizens that our beach looks trashy, if it's not broke, why are we trying to fix it? Let's just continue on. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Marlene Roberts Brantley.
I'm Marlene Roberts Brantley, and I'm here representing my son, Greg Roberts, who owns the Compass Rose store at the corner of Airstrip and the Bypass. And he is very much opposed to any regulation that he's read in the proposals. And he's asked me to read a statement for him, okay? He says, "Mom, can you read this for me while I am gone?" Where is he? He was in New Jersey today. He's out peddling products so he can make a mortgage payment by Friday. And this is the way it's been for even before '08. You folks surely are all aware of how terrible it has been for not only big business, it's been tough for small business. Anyhow, here's his statement. I would like to point out that the businesses most affected by any new regulations concerning outdoor display under the gauze of beautification might be missing the point. If you look at each business with goods displayed, all of them have spent considerable time, effort, and many thousands of dollars this year. In the case of wings, tens of thousands of dollars to make the entire Kildare Hills property look bright and new. The owner of the new Pacific store spent tens of thousands. refacing, as did the new trading post on the beach road. Nags Head Hammocks spent thousands of dollars on new landscaping based around outdoor display. Ocean Atlantic Rentals looks far nicer now than it did before they invested in their property. Greg has landscaped more. He's painted his house at Compass Rose, and he believes, in fact, that we have self-regulated quite nicely. There are many towns where businesses could never place any goods outdoors without fences and security systems galore. Thank God we don't live in a town like that. I am sure nobody here would want to live in a place where you could not trust your neighbors as we trust ours. In order to help my Kill Devil Hills store survive, I opened a store in Port Charlotte, Florida. The state of Florida and the towns in Florida, they're many years further ahead along the path of building up regulations which affect businesses. In 1.5 miles around the Florida location, there are well over 100 vacant businesses of all sizes. Because of the overregulation of the county, the county can no longer even issue a variance down there. I am sure they would love to see new jobs created in those vacant locations, but they've made it extremely hard through nothing more than rules, regulations, permit fees, and licensing requirements. I would remind each board member that we have seen more national chains open recently than ever before. Nags Head, never known as being easy to do business in, is the leader. Kill Devil Hills, with a new Lowe's and an AutoZone being built, is a close second. National chains, they don't have to care. They can open more locations. The smaller mom and pop stores are the ones who are affected by layers of regulations. National chains have fleets of attorneys, lawyers, staffs, engineers. So if they need to change something, okay, we'll take down the arches, we'll do whatever you want. You know, we have the money and the staff to do it. Little guys don't have it. It's the unique stores which our Outer Banks visitors express love for. None of them come here to go to Lowe's. And the new Visitors Bureau analysis of the questionnaire from last year is being compiled by NC State. And I think you'll see that what they like about us are mom and pop businesses, different things.
Ms. Brantley, just with the sake of time, we're running long. Okay,
paragraph.
Thank you.
This is Greg speaking. I am proud to have a business here in Kill Devil Hills. I am proud to call Kill Devil Hills home. I would be proud to attend a forum in which the town, the entire business community, and the Chamber of Commerce can come together and ensure that we maintain a healthy and vibrant business community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Those are the only persons that signed up to speak. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak at public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Stay right here, is that okay?
If you'll please approach the lectern.
My name's Carol Ann Angeles, and I have the Jolly Roger Restaurant, and I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but I just want to say that I do support the small businesses. We are what makes the Outer Banks a special place. We all love it here, or we wouldn't be here. And I think the trend that's happening over the entire country is that small businesses, the medium income people, are being persecuted and made to have too many rules and regulations. Let us live, let us love our community, work with us, let us prosper, and if we do have to talk about something, let's wait till the fall, bring the Chamber of Commerce in, bring all the businesses in and let's discuss this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience this evening that would like to speak at this public comment? Okay. Seeing no one else, we will close public comment. The next item on the agenda is actually response to public comment, but since we'll be moving straight into old business after this, we'll just, since everyone was speaking on the same item, we will go ahead and address this as we move into our old business. Unless someone wants to say anything now. Okay. Okay, so we will start old business, which the first item under old business is proposed amendment to Chapter 153, zoning, Section 153.002 definitions, and Section 153.083M outdoor display to define and regulate outdoor displays. So I'll open the floor for board discussion. Who wants to go first? Do we need an introduction, or are we comfortable with this?
Yeah, I think
Just
we...
starting discussion.
Yeah, I'll be willing to go first. I think on my tenure on the board, this is about the fourth time this item has come up. It's just one of those that just seems to keep coming back. And I agree with everybody that spoke tonight. I think a lot of what these businesses do, especially Bill, I know when we used to give out a landscape yard of the month or something, it seemed like you owned that forever. I mean, your place has always looked wonderful. And I think there are tasteful ways that displays can be made, and I think the small businesses do need to be able to display their wares. I know we had conversations last year about how many umbrellas, how many beach chairs you can set out front. That's important to businesses. People don't know what you sell if you can't display some of your wares outside. We've had a little problem in the past of some people going overboard, and I believe the last time we brought this up is when we talked about the businesses self-regulating this. And for me right now, I would agree with what the majority of the people tonight spoke about. I think right now I can't say that I've ever had anybody call me and complain about an outdoor display, that something looked bad or something needed to be cleaned up or they didn't like the way somebody's store looked. Being a small business owner myself, I don't have a display other than a sign. But I think it is important that people can display some of their wares outside as long as they don't go overboard. And that's, I think, what part of the worry is about putting a regulation in place. But I think I would agree, if we do anything, I mean, I'm really for kind of keeping things the way they are right now with self-policing, but if anything, I would say we get a forum. I don't think we need the Chamber of Commerce involved, but maybe do a forum in the fall and meet with some of the business owners. Because, I mean, when I look over these, I couldn't make a decision tonight based on all this language we have. I mean, I could take bits and pieces of some and form another idea, but I don't really like any of the ideas that we have put 100%. They all need a little bit of tweaking, in my opinion, but when I ride through the town, I don't see anybody's business that I say, you know, oh my gosh, that looks horrible. And I think what, you know, the one gentleman said, I mean, we get rid of outdoor displays, it is going to hurt those businesses because our neighbors do allow it to an extent. And I think as long as we can keep it under control and people take care of their displays, they don't go overboard. And again, using Bill as an example, I mean, it's amazing the landscaping that Nagshead Hammocks has done over the years. I mean, I marvel at that every time I ride by one of your stores. And I mean, for you to lose that, it would lose a lot of the character of your business. I mean, having that stuff outside is part of what makes your landscape and your site look so nice. So to me, I'm right now in favor of doing nothing. And if we feel like we need to have a forum in the fall and get together with the businesses, I don't know what we would talk about though. I mean, but we could have a forum, but you know, this again kind of goes back to what this one lady said about over-regulation. I mean, we have enough regulations and enough laws and ordinances. I think we can go a little overboard sometimes, and this might be an example of that, but I really think at the present time, I don't ride through town and really see anything that's offensive to me. So at this time, I would say I'm in favor of option one of doing nothing and just letting the businesses self-police themselves.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Anyone else like to speak to this now?
Yeah, well, first of all, as has been said before, we've been dealing with this since 2006. And we did have a forum, I think it was 4 years ago, I think it was in 2008. And the consensus at that time was that the merchants that were here, and there was a fair number of them, I think there was maybe like 25 or 30. The consensus among them was that they would police themselves, and I think some of them have, but there are some that have gone the other direction. And one thing that I think we have to remember is that the citizens in Kill Devil Hills, they've expressed on several of the last citizen surveys that we've taken that they're concerned about the visual clutter on the two state highways, 158 and NC 12. And of course, it doesn't just include outdoor displays. There's other things too. We have the power poles, and sometimes we have a problem having the state mow the sides of the road. Now we have a lot of flags out and merchandise out, and I took a drive around this weekend, and the point I'm going to make is that whatever regulations that we have, I think they need to be reasonable. I think they need to be fair. Everybody, so it's a level playing field, and I think it needs to be easy to enforce. And I'm not sure exactly what that is at this point, but we have a flag ordinance. Before I misspeak, tell me what that is now for flags.
You get 2 flags.
2 flags.
2 flags, okay.
Unlimited governmental.
Right. On Saturday, one business had 17 flags. Another one had 9, and several of them had between 5 and 10. Of course, Monday morning they were gone. So you can. This is a trend that I've noticed over the years, and we discussed when I was on the planning board that I think it kind of shows a lack of cooperation on some of them. And I'm not saying any of them are here tonight. I don't think they are. But whatever it is that we do, we all have to agree. The businesses have to agree. I believe the citizens have to agree, and of course, we have to come to some consensus here about what we're going to do about it. I wouldn't mind talking about it again at some other time when people aren't so busy. I'm not in favor of just letting it go like it is. That's for the record. And I'm not necessarily in favor of outlawing it altogether. I think there is some place we can find that will be agreeable to everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
I'll go next. I spoke at length today with staff and have given this considerable thought as well. And this is, again, not the first time we've talked about this as a group. And in looking at these options, I'm kind of with you on this and the rest of the board. I don't really see an option here that jumps at me that really warms my heart either. So in talking with staff today, I kind of had some thoughts that maybe we could come to a different conclusion, and there is a thought that maybe makes a little more level playing field if we were to look at maybe something like having outdoor displays, but have them come a certain width or a certain amount of space from the building, or a certain length from the bypass or the road. It can go one way or the other. And that way, it's a lot easier to regulate. You don't have to, I mean, you measure it with a tape measure, or in some cases, if you do 20 feet, you could measure it with visually, because that's, I think, the length of a parking spot. And that way, you're not saying you can't have it, but you're also kind of limiting the fact that they're not able to go all the way to the bypass with it. Again, I think there's some tweaking that would need to be done with that, and we need staff to look at it to be able to do that. But that's an option that's not on here. So again, I know I'm kind of throwing something out there and we've beaten a dead horse, but I just wanted to put that out there because I think that's something that, again, it doesn't require a permit. It's not. It's the less regulation of the regulations that we could have.
Thank you.
My turn.
Yes.
Okay. Well, most of you all know I outlined the timeline. Paul, you weren't at that meeting, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something like 14 times that we've dealt with this since 2006. And I chaired the committee the last time that we asked the business owners to participate in a seminar to discuss it, and as a result of that, we left it in the business owners' hands to self-regulate. And and I agree. I'm not in favor of any of these specifics on these items that we have tonight, and I'm certainly willing to take it one more step, and that's do what's been suggested tonight, and that's maybe have something in the winter months. Again, I don't see the need to have the chamber involved. This is a town issue, but I would certainly entertain having something again in the winter with the business owners. Let us all come together, and let's come to some consensus amongst the business owners and the leaders and the 80+% of the citizens that wanted some kind of regulation on the bypass. And again, I could go any way, but there's got to be some need for reasonable dialogue, and I'm not opposed to having that in the winter months. That hopefully the businesses will show up and they do have. Let's face it. How many spoke? 7. And we got more than 7 businesses on the bypass in 4.2 miles, guys. I mean, where's the rest of the business owners? If this is a concern of theirs, where are they tonight? But I understand that. But the point is, we've dealt with it since 2006, and I'm not opposed to taking one more shot at it. And let's talk about it. But let's have some kind of consensus one way or the other. Either we don't do anything or we do something. I'm fine either way.
Thank you. My position, before we get into what action we want to take, is I don't want to do anything to limit and restrict our businesses. I would be curious to try to delve in more when we talk about the citizens that responded in the citizen opinion survey. Commissioner Hogan, or Mayor Pro Tem Hogan, brought up several things that may also be factoring into when people talk about the crowding and the cluttering on the bypass. And I don't think we really have a good base of information whether they're referencing outdoor display and that's bothering the citizens, or whether it is the poles and the fact that the layout of our town, we have businesses that are very close together, and or the landscaping and the mowing issue. And I wonder if there's a way, if we're leaning in the direction of going to hosting some type of forum in the fall, if there's a way to try to garner that citizen feedback prior to going into a work session with the businesses. If we're basing some of the reason that we even want to go down this avenue is because we believe the citizens are saying this is important, it would be nice to have some concrete information from the citizens. So I'm wondering if we're looking at, say, a November forum to meet with the businesses, if we could try to put a call out to citizens to give us input in October that we would then take into that forum. Just throwing that out there for thought. It may give us some concrete information to work with other than just guessing what it is that our citizens would like to see improved along the bypass.
Well, I don't think it would be a bad idea to have the citizens and the businesses meet at the same time. That way they can have some interaction. If they can sit here and understand what the businesses are dealing with and what they're going through, I think versus having two separate forums, we need to have one and have everybody come so they can interact with one another. Because if we bring the citizens in, they have their chance to talk. The businesses don't get the full benefit of hearing what they have to say. And
I wasn't really thinking a citizens forum, and that's fine to bring them in. I was thinking more using like SurveyMonkey or some type of survey forum where they could just provide written input.
Yeah, but I think
but it's fine to include them.
I think you can get a lot better information when you get people here that can speak freely in an open forum. I mean, surveys you can design a survey to get the results you're looking for. I've never been a big fan of surveys and never really thought you get good results because I can write surveys and depending on the way I write it, I can get just the answer that I'm looking for. But, if we can bring everybody together and have the business owners here and have the citizens here, gives them a chance to hear one-on-one what the businesses have to say and what they're having to deal with the down economy and competition, and they may not be aware of what businesses are dealing with, and that's hard to explain on a survey.
Sure. So I guess it seems like there's consensus to do a fall forum. And did we, in our calendar, was there a month that we had set aside to possibly do a business forum? October.
October.
Was there a date set for that? Is that after Columbus weekend?
That still might be too early for these folks. It's October. I mean, that's
late October, early November.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be the last meeting in October.
Okay. Okay. Seems like that's what the consensus is. I guess would someone be willing to make a motion that we
The 24th.
schedule October 24th as our business forum?
I'll make that motion that we hold a forum for citizens and businesses alike to discuss outdoor displays.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
For purposes of the discussion, Mayor, we're going to hold that specifically to try to address this issue, right? We're not going to bring other issues in that, because I think everybody here needs to have plenty of time, no time limit, and be able to express their views. And typically we have other topics, and I'd like to limit it to the display.
Well, my motion was assuming that was
Okay.
going to be
I want to make sure.
The intent of the meeting was
Okay.
just to hold that forum, not for any other business to be held.
I just want to make sure I understood it,
Okay.
so we can focus on it and have everybody have plenty of time to address both sides.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you all for coming out and speaking tonight. Okay, next we'll move on to new business. The first item under new business is requested amendment to Chapter 111, Peddlers and Itinerant Vendors, to allow beach umbrella service, including storage boxes, to be located east of the dune, and amendment to Chapter 71, Traffic Regulations, Section 71.23, Driving on Beaches, to allow limited beach driving permits for the business. And I'll call upon Greg to introduce this item, please.
I certainly will. Thank you, Mayor. Ben Gallup is here to represent his applicant, Merrick Dabrowski, and I'm sure he'll have some things to say maybe a little later. But just generally what you have here tonight is a request that has four basic parts. One is to add a definition for beach umbrella service providers, and that's to allow a beach umbrella service provider to rent his umbrellas on the beach. And the second part of it would prohibit rental or sales of any other items but the beach umbrella providers items, which is chairs and umbrellas, beach umbrellas and chairs. And the third part of it is to allow beach and umbrella rental storage boxes for the equipment, which would be the umbrellas and the chairs. And finally, it would allow for a temporary driving permit. In the event that, well, first of all, when they put the boxes and bring the equipment out, they'd be able to drive on the beach, and then during a storm event or end of the season, they'd be able to take them up. And that's pretty much the general overview of what the request is. Some of the staff comments were not favorable to this. There was concerns about creating clutter on the beaches. There was a real concern that in the past the limiting of commerce and sales and rentals on the beach has been a goal of the town on the public beach. And also the opportunity for others to come in, because it's one of those not a season goes by where somebody doesn't come in. Why can't I sell hot dogs on the beach, or why can't I sell snow cones on the beach, or rent surfboards, or whatever it is? That's the great idea to make money. And we basically say it's because that hasn't been what the board has had in their mission, and the beach is free and clear of rentals and sales. And there's some backup in our land use plan surveys. I know that surveys are sometimes can get the answer you want, but we spent a lot of time in our survey trying to take the bias out, and we had professionals design it, and it was mailed back to professionals, and we didn't really do much of anything but tell them what we were trying to ask, the question we were trying to ask. So it's about 80% of the people that answered that survey, that took time to answer it, said, hey, we don't want vending on the beach. They didn't really say beach umbrella rentals and chair rentals, but the whole idea is the commercialization of the beach was not favorable, and people that took the time to write that on the back of their surveys too. Without being prompted, that they weren't in favor of commercialization of the beach. Got too much already was the resigning thing. So with that in mind, the staff position has been and is tonight that it is something you should be very careful when you consider, because of the future implications of it.
Thank you. I'd like to call on Ben Gallup. Would you like to speak?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Davies and fellow commissioners. I'm Ben Gallup. I'm a lawyer here in Nags Head with the firm of Hornthal, Riley, Ellison, Malin. I'm here tonight on behalf of Mark Dabrowski, who is a local resident, property owner, and business owner in the town of Kill Devil Hills. And we're trying to get this, and I got a little bit off script since Greg's done a decent job of explaining the basics of what we're trying to do. But Mr. Dabrowski has operated a business like this on the beach in Kill Devil Hills, as others have, for years. He's been at the beach club for about 8 years now. Before that, he did some stuff at the John Yancey and the Ramada, I believe. So for about 12 years now, he's been operating similar businesses. And last year, the year before, the town came to him with some issues they had initially with him taking money up on the beach for rentals of these umbrellas and chairs, and then later for having the boxes on the beach that he used to store his equipment. I don't think anybody disagrees that if he stored all his equipment on the other side of the dune and took all the money on the other side of the dune, that the business itself was okay. That everybody else, there are other places in town that are operating similar businesses slightly different ways. So it's not a question of the umbrellas and chairs themselves or the fact that they're rented to people, but it's really a question of can he have the storage boxes on the beach that he needs to store his equipment. And the reason why he needs those, particularly at the beach club, is I was kind of stunned spending most of my time in Nags Head these days, coming to Kill Devil Hills and looking at the property. The dune in front of the beach club is pretty stunning, in terms of its width. And it would cost him, you know, as a small business owner, just like we were discussing with the sign thing before, it would cost him more money to hire people to be able to run the business and carry the chairs and move everything back and forth across that area. And so that's the primary purpose for wanting to have the ability to have the boxes on the beach. They're not very big boxes. I think they're about 32 square feet. You know, they're a piece of plywood with a piece of plywood on the walls and the ends, so that they don't take up a whole lot of space. They're not very obstructive. And you know, the primary concerns on the beach are the public's use of the beach. And the way we've drafted this ordinance, we're cognizant of that. We don't want to restrict the public's ability to use the beach any more than we want to have the boxes on the beach. We want the boxes to be out of people's way. We want the public to be able to use the beach. But the private property owner who owns to the mean high water mark also has the desire to use that beach for the people that stay in that large multifamily complex. So we've also limited it to multifamily complexes where there are going to be a large number of people in a very dense area that this service might be more useful than in front of single-family residential homes. They're just not going to have that much equipment to carry out there. It's much easier to carry from the house to the beach. There are a number of different things I could probably go through, but the best thing to address is probably some of the issues that staff had. The primary one seems to be somewhat slippery slope kind of argument that if you allow this, this will start a new generation of businesses to run on the beach. More, you know, the gentleman with the hot dogs going up and down the beach or whatever. And I think there's a difference here, and the difference is that this is an operation that happens in Kill Devil Hills now, all the time, with multiple business fronts, multiple oceanfront properties doing this. It's just a slightly different mechanism for how it's done. And I believe others have done it with a similar mechanism in the past. And as far as it being the first step of allowing privatization of the beach and private businesses, I think y'all get the opportunity to consider that as they come, and you get to determine if someone else wants to make a request. You'll get to take a look at that and make a request, make a determination on their request. And all we're asking for is a reasonable regulation that allows Mr. Dabrowski to continue his business. There are a number of different items in the staff report related to the potential that CAMA regulations or FEMA regulations or building code regulations may or may not prohibit the boxes if they were approved in this process. And what I'd say today is that I think staff and I disagree on whether or not that's possible, but the reality is that's a different mechanism, it's a different issue, and it's a really hard question to answer until you actually see what somebody has designed and applied for. You know, is it going to be the exact boxes that we have today? Maybe not, but that shouldn't preclude Mr. Dabrowski's opportunity to engage an engineer if he has to, or engage a contractor if he has to, and see if he can develop. You know, these boxes are pretty simple, but the requirements to engineer them so that they'll withstand flotation and winds might not be as complicated as it seems. So he might be able to get those permits even if the great restrictions that seem to potentially apply do apply. And I would just say that don't let the possibility that other regulations will potentially preclude him doing this to stop you from adopting a regulation that will allow him to do it from a business perspective. And we've talked with staff about this. This is the proposal that we made, and we're pretty open to considerable changes in regulations, adoption of sizes of boxes, placement of boxes, measurements, how they look, aesthetics. We're even open to things like Mr. Dabrowski has the benefit that he runs the Ocean Rescue Service in Duck and Southern Shores. And most of his employees at the Umbrella Service have historically been certified lifeguards. and they've provided assistance to the town's lifeguards. Mr. Dabrowski himself has provided assistance to the town lifeguards, and I believe that he's gotten good reviews from those folks about doing that, and that's been a good thing. So we're not even against adding a requirement for someone to provide a lifeguard, or provide that an employee there who's on the beach will be a certified lifeguard. Add an additional benefit to the town, an additional benefit. There's a number of different additional potential areas of regulation, and what we've brought you is a starting point. We'd love for you to adopt what we've brought, but if you're inclined to do this and you're disinclined to agree with our exact proposal, I'd ask that you consider more careful regulations if that's what you need. I'd love to have time to sit down with staff, with them coming from the perspective that let's find a way to make this happen. I think that would be very useful. Rather than prohibit his business, I think it should act as a template for how to do the business right. I think staff has mentioned to me, at least, that Mr. Dabrowski in the past has done this in a respectful manner with good intentions, and that he really hasn't done anything that anybody's been exceptionally unhappy with. They've just recognized that certain regulations they believe might apply to him. And so we're asking to clarify those and to use him as a template for the other people who may end up applying for a similar business. We don't disagree that Mr. Dabrowski might not be the only person that ever wants to use whatever regulation you may adopt. But I'm here for questions. If you have any questions about what the ordinance says, Mr. Dabrowski's here as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we'll start with, does anyone have any questions of staff or Mr. Gallup or Mr. Dabrowski?
I'll start off. I have some comments. First off, I'll go on record saying I'm 100% against this, and I'll go over those reasons. I do respectfully disagree with your comment about this will not make it easier for other businesses to come to the beach. Right now, it's hard to get a business to operate out on the beach. If this ordinance was adopted, it would make it a lot easier for other businesses to operate on the beach. So I do respectfully disagree with your statement that it isn't going to bring more businesses. It will, because this will give them the opportunity to have a business on the beach. My concerns with this, one, I don't like the idea of the boxes being on the east side of the dune. Right now, the boxes are stored at motels, albeit it does take a little bit of time to get them from the motel to the beach. It's just part of doing business. The other concern I have with the boxes, what kind of guarantee do we have those boxes are going to come off the beach during a storm? Nor'easter, hurricane. How do we know those boxes are coming off the beach in a timely manner where they don't wind up causing damage to other structures on the beach? I think they're going to be clutter. We just went over the issue with businesses about trying to clean things up, and to me, putting boxes on the beach are going in the wrong direction. I do understand, being a businessman myself, time is money, but if you choose to run this activity, that's just part of the game. You're going to have to deal with bringing the umbrellas from the motel to the beach. The other problem that I have with this is I don't like the idea of giving someone the opportunity to drive on our beach. Those beaches are very crowded in the summertime. If you look from Collington Light north, especially at high tide, there is very little to no room for vehicle passage on that beach. We're going to have a truck running up and down that beach trying to rent umbrellas, drop off, pick up, whichever, and they're going to be competing with people trying to lay on those beaches, sit out, fish or whatnot, which is going to create a conflict with the public. I don't even like the idea of our lifeguards running up and down the beach with the jet ski. To me, that jet ski could be parked at Collington Light, and that truck could hit the beach when it's needed. To me, we're fine running four-wheelers up there, but I don't like the idea of a truck being on the beach or any vehicle being on the beach in the summertime. Our beaches just aren't wide enough, although we do have, as you mentioned, some spots south of Collington Light, we do have more beach available. but definitely north of Collington Light, there is not enough room. I don't want to try to get in the way of Mr. Dabrowski of running his business, but just don't agree with any of these requests that are being put forward to us tonight. I just think it's not something that we need to agree to. It's not something we need to change. It seems like it's been working in the past, although maybe not as well as you would like it to work. But I just don't agree with any of this request whatsoever, and I would not support any of it.
May I ask, how has it been working in the past? I mean,
My understanding, it's worked fine until, that he's had the boxes on the beach and that
The boxes have been on the beach since the town went with a lifeguard service in-house.
Merrick, do you mind coming up to the podium, please? Thank you.
When the town went in-house with the lifeguard service, I actually went to the town and asked how I could operate this business and was given an option. And I had to turn in requests from the hotels that I provided the service for. And this went on for probably 9 years until I was told, you can't take money on the beach anymore. So don't take money on the beach anymore. The next year, you can't have boxes on the beach. So we didn't have the boxes on the beach. I think because of the umbrellas and chairs that we put out is a lot more organized and is not an unsightly beach. It's not, cluttered. You could probably drive 3 trucks wide down that beach probably because of the way we set up the equipment and everybody using the equipment that we have for the beach club. And primarily because they've been doing it for years and they're just used to it. So that's, I'll let him talk.
You don't have any conflict at high tide north of Collington Light with people on the beach?
I'm not operating north of Collington Light. I'm only operating in one spot. And I understand that one of the comments was, well, there's some areas that there just isn't any beach. Well, at that point you say, we can't do it. You can't do it here because there isn't any beach. And I understand that, but
Commissioner Buske, as it was drafted, that was the intent, was with the beach driving provision requires that they be conditioned, any temporary permits, which would only be during the summertime, would typically only be for an emergency situation, a storm, some reason to get the boxes off of the beach in an emergency, that they would be conditioned on the permit holder's use of the motor vehicle in a safe, expeditious manner, which does not unreasonably restrict the public's right to use of the beach. If the beach is too narrow, there would be an unreasonable restriction, or it wouldn't be in a safe, expeditious manner for someone to drive.
So there's not going to be a truck on the beach every day?
No, this is the only times that the ordinance as proposed allows for a truck to go on the beach is one time at the beginning of the season to put the boxes on the beach, and one time at the end of the season to take them off, and pursuant to a temporary permit during the season, in the case of an emergency or storm, he would have to go to the police chief, explain that there's an emergency or storm coming and that he needed to get the boxes off to solve one of the problems that you had just mentioned that you had was the boxes being damaged in a storm or being something that would damage another piece of property. So that was taken into account with both the boxes and with the beach driving.
So maybe I didn't understand this completely then. Where are the boxes going to be distributed?
Right, they would be distributed up as close to the dune line as possible.
But I mean, what parts of the beach, from where to where?
They are limited only to the property owned by that multifamily use, be it a hotel, motel, or large condominium complex. They can't be anywhere else. They've got to stay in front of that cottage. They can't rent to people who are using the beach up and down the beach, and they can't. They're stuck with renting to the people who are using that property. That's what the ordinance was trying to do, was trying to limit this use and this business at all from being operated as an itinerant type business up and down the beach. It's just for the property where it's located.
How many boxes are we talking about?
The ordinance doesn't specify, but that's an area of regulation that we.
Well, no, I'm asking Mike, how many boxes are we talking about?
Depends on who he can contract.
It depends on the size of the box. Right now, as he discussed, that the boxes I have are about 32 square feet, which is a 4x8 sheet of plywood. Peak, right there, I would probably need 6. But that's.
And is that what you've had in the past?
I think so. I think I had 6 boxes out there. One of them was a little bit bigger than 32 square feet, but less than 50. I can't remember how big it was exactly. I didn't make it. And they cost roughly $400 in material to make currently. And then the equipment that's in the boxes is worth a lot more than that.
And did I understand Greg correctly? You're asking for exclusivity to be the only person to be able to put umbrellas out there?
No, absolutely not.
That wasn't my request.
The exclusivity is only driven by the property. I mean, he may be the only one that the management company or association or hotel contracts with to deal with their customers, but there's no exclusivity of using the beach. Anybody can use the beach. They can put up umbrellas in between his folks' umbrellas. They can put up umbrellas in front of them and behind them. There's no restriction on using the beach. That's why the putting the umbrellas and chairs themselves out isn't that much different than anywhere else. The property owner and property users that stay there have that same right to the beach as everybody else. But everybody else has the same right they do to put umbrellas and chairs there if they want to. There's nothing about this that would restrict that in any manner.
Okay.
This is not just condominiums and hotels, though. It's also multifamily dwellings, correct?
It's spelled out as large multifamily dwellings that are similar to condominiums or hotels.
So like if it was a 16-bedroom home, I don't know if we have any of those, but if it was a large...
The oceanfront parcel of property on which is situated a condominium complex, motel, hotel, or other multifamily structure that provides beach chairs and beach rentals. I think everybody would consider any house to be, even though it has 20 rooms as some of our houses tend to do, I think it's still considered to be a single-family residence.
It's some family, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, your goal obviously is to contract with as many folks as you can. So,
Not right now.
So, I mean, that 6 boxes could go to 20 boxes.
I really don't want to do any more than I'm doing. Honestly, and I've gone over and over with Ben different scenarios that would occur, but because I run the lifeguard service in Duck and Southern Shores, I don't want anything else on my plate. I do this because when I had the Ramada Inn and the Holiday Inn, they came to me and asked me, how do I do it? And I had the employees, I had the staff where I could take care of their beach. And what they had wasn't working. They had 3 guys that just walked off one day and left everything. And they have a lot of people that come and rely on that, a lot of people that thank us for what we do because they couldn't carry this stuff out onto the beach. And I know I could hire a lot of young guys to carry this stuff over the dune, but as he said, I haven't seen a dune like that anywhere in Dare County. It's huge, and it's a lot of equipment. When it stretches from one end of the property to the other in the busiest weeks, which is about 5 weeks. And is there still room for others? Yes, because one of the other stipulations, I think, at one point was I need to leave room at Calvin Street, which I did. And I've always been willing to move stuff for people if they ask. And a lot of people know that we set up early because there is a lot of stuff on the beach, but we always make room. If there are people that come out every day, we make room for them. It's not like we're trying to hoard it and force everybody to rent it. These people come to us, they call me, they email me, and we're contracted by the beach club to provide this service. So.
Mike, how do your people get out on the beach to put the equipment out, and how do they pick it back up? Do you have somebody that watches each box, or is one person responsible, and how do they get from box to box?
Typically, I'll have, well, the properties, I don't really know exactly how wide the property is. It goes from Clark Street to Martin Street. So that's roughly 2 blocks. And I get young people that are in really good shape, so they run typically from box to box, and they run when they put the equipment out on the beach. So they walk over the dune either at Calvin, or they come off of the property for the beach club. They've got 3 accesses at the beach club. And then it's just carrying the equipment. It beats CrossFit, I'll tell you that.
You usually have 2 people.
I've got 5 or 6 people every day to set up. And then there's usually 1 or 2 people during the day to make sure that everything's taken care of. And then 2 people can clean up because it takes a little bit longer. People leave the beach at different times. So it's a lot easier taking the stuff up at their leisure. And then I also do, you know, when the wind's over 15 knots, we don't even put the umbrellas up because it's a hazard. So storm days and stuff, we don't even put anything out.
Meredith, how hard is it going to be to get a camera permit to put a box on the beach?
It's got to be permanent structure.
Depends on who you ask, Commissioner.
If you ask the assistant director, we can't permit the boxes on the beach. Our field representative
Does that fall under John Cece?
it was John Cece, and now it's Kelly. John Cece has gone to a different district. He's still in the Elizabeth City office, but he was the one who informed Donna. They went out on a site visit several times, and he was told that the boxes were not allowed on the beach by CAMA, not only by our regulations, but by the CAMA regulations. And so Ben and I differ on this opinion. I'm not going to argue with what the assistant director said. I'm not in the position to do that. I simply am reporting to the board that the research that I've done, the assistant director of the Division of Coastal Management believes that these boxes are not permitted, or we're not able to permit them on the beach. And if Ben thinks differently, he needs to talk to Ted Tyndall, because again, I'm not in a position to argue the state's regulations.
Ben, what kind of research have you done on this?
I've done a fair amount of research, and the reason I say it depends on who you ask is I'm not sure how much you know about the structure of CAMA, but you've got your local people
all the time.
Yeah, and you got Frank Jennings in Elizabeth City, and then Frank reports to Ted. Well, Currituck has recently had a similar question come up. Currituck allows these boxes on the beach, and they allow, CAMA does not get in the way of that. They had asked Frank Jennings about it. Frank had said it was okay. So I contacted Frank, ran it by him. He told me it was okay. Meredith, doing her due diligence, had contacted Mr. Tyndall, and Mr. Tyndall responded today that it was not okay. So you've got a position where different people in CAMA are saying different things. However, I think the issue may be that they're also seeing different things in terms of what the exact facts are. And there may be some discussion that fleshes out whether or not it's available. But like I said earlier, I think that if CAMA precludes it, then CAMA will preclude it, and that shouldn't be necessarily a reason for you not to adopt a regulation for you that doesn't allow it. I think if we have to deal with CAMA on it, then we'll have to deal with that. But I think there are some ways around it, and Frank and I had been on the same page on that, and it was something that Ted didn't consider. So I've asked him to consider it. I believe, Meredith, you probably saw my email back to Frank.
Didn't get a response.
Yeah, and we didn't get a response before 5. So it remains up in the air as to whether or not they'll consider it. But I think the reality is they were also assuming that it couldn't meet other regulations. And as I said before, you may be able to design these things so they do. And I've talked to engineers who said that that's a possibility, even if you have to meet extended requirements.
Makes me a little nervous when you say get around it.
No.
Yeah.
Well, only because it's an unnecessary impediment that doesn't actually exist. But if it exists, then we won't be able. You know, if it's a problem, then we won't be able to get around it.
I'm just messing with you.
I think one thing we might want to keep in mind is the same when we do codes for the town, that they can't be site specific, and in this case, it can't be a business specific. I appreciate knowing how you do your business, but were we to approve this, and I'm not in favor of approving it, there would be others that would want to do it. So how you do your business now or how you would plan to do it is kind of irrelevant. It's because anybody could do it, and they would all have different ways to do it as long as they followed the plan. But I think we have to keep in mind that the details of how you would do your business is kind of irrelevant here, because we would have to structure this if we were to approve it so that it would suit anyone who wanted to do the business.
And I think that's where I mentioned using Mr. Dabrowski as a template. You know, dig into the details if you have to, but make it so that if he's done it right in the past, so that everybody has to do it right in the future. And the one thing I'd say about the proliferation, particularly of the boxes, is, you know, again, you're going to have to look at a large multifamily hotel, motel type situation. And some of them who are operating already with doing the same sort of thing without boxes on the beach, they may very well not need it. And if they don't have the same sort of restraints in terms of area to carry it, it might be more economically feasible for them to not have to deal with the boxes in the first place. So it may not be as prolific as it could seem.
Yeah, also one other thing I'd like to add too is that you mentioned several times that how difficult it is to get this stuff to the beach and how people you have to hire and everything. And I sympathize with you, but we're not here to set the thing up so that you can run your business and make more of a profit. If that's what you have to do as you're doing your business right now, that's something you would have to deal with.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that completely. And what I'm looking more at is historically what's been done. And this goes back to when Jaff was running the service. And stuff was kept on the beach, and I know Greg said he was carrying stuff over the beach as a 10-year-old, but I think they just used that to keep Greg busy. Yeah, they were. We do it all the time, Greg.
That was my first job. I'm still learning.
We do it all the time to keep those 10-year-olds busy, but it was, I mean, the equipment was kept right on the beach, and there's someone in this room that could probably answer that pretty well. And I could call a couple other people that are in the county that could tell you the same thing that worked for Jeff.
I'd like to say something. All of this aside, and I'll go on record as saying I'm opposed to this as well. I think if we were to approve this, we're just opening Pandora's box. Again, if you talk about chairs and umbrellas, the next thing we're going to be looking at is somebody wanting to rent surfboards and boogie boards. And if we say yes to this, why would we not say yes to that? I mean, it's not fair to say yes to one and not to the other. I realize you say there's a precedence and you've been doing this as well, but it's not. Why not? What's our reasoning for saying no to that? I mean, it's not any harder to put the boogie boards and the surfboards in a box, and that's a business as well. And with that, I mean, I've got a plethora of reasons here. I mean, it's in this, we're giving you an unfair advantage to some of the other businesses that are, you know, doing the same thing, you know, that are not right there on the beach. There's a whole separate issue of the driving and on the beach, and I'm kind of with you on that. So I'm not going to reiterate everything everyone said, but if we were going to do this, there would have to be major revision of this, because there's nothing in there about the maintenance of the boxes and the different other things. But again, I'm not going into any of that, because I'm just extremely opposed to it. So I think what we do with this is we're opening ourselves up for a lot of other things, and it's not something we want to do.
Yes, Mayor. Again, this is, nobody likes to turn down anything like this, but there's so much against this as opposed to for it. That, I mean, it's been working pretty good for you for 12 years the way you're doing it, and as much as I'd like to see it made easier on you with the, I won't reiterate all the negatives, but I can't support it either.
Well, and this is where I come with the struggle, is it's my understanding, this isn't to make it easier. He's been doing it for 8 to 12 years, but just over the past 2 years, we have changed what he's allowed to do. So that's where I run in, or we've enforced it. I mean, we've enforced something.
Enforce something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it, that's what the struggle is with me, for me, is
you
you.
send me out there at 7 o'clock in the morning every morning, and again at 7 o'clock in the evening to the beach, and that's part of my job, then I'd be happy to do that. And there might even be some other things that are going on out there that I'm not aware of, but we're basically complaint driven, and when we got complaints about Mr. Dabrowski or anybody else, Go Dog Go, there's been a couple of them that have been, stretched the limits, and we would talk to them, and most of the time they would do what we wanted them to do. And I don't know that anybody's gotten a citation or anything like that over the years. It's been pretty much of a gentleman's agreement, and people work things out.
And I guess that's where the struggle then. So for the first 6 years, there was a gentlewoman's agreement that you could have your boxes, or they just didn't know. We just didn't know he had his boxes. I mean, that's the only thing that I have the struggle with is you have someone that's been a business owner, and
that complaint came from CAMA, and they asked us, fix it, to get rid of them. Is that how it went?
And we do allow businesses to rent umbrellas and boogie boards and beach chairs, and almost every hotel has someone within their hotel, a business that's contracted by the hotel to rent various beach equipment, but they have to do it from within inside the hotel, because if it occurred outside the hotel, then it became peddling or itinerant vending, which is never, in my 16 years here, has not been allowed by the town. I know it was allowed when I was a kid because I remember it, but regulations do change, so that hasn't been allowed. Now, the boxes on the beach were not always a fixture as far as our history goes, and as far as Donna has told me, the boxes were not always on the beach. They may have been there longer than the 2 years since we've been talking to Mr. Dabrowski about moving them back to the west side, to on property where they currently are, I think, on the west side of the dune on the beach club's property, and that's fine. It's an accessory to the primary. It's not a problem. But they've not always had the boxes, and we got a complaint from CAMA, and we've also gotten complaints from citizens about the business and the boxes and the manner in which the business was being run on the beach, and that's why we got involved. Until someone tells us the planning department doesn't drive up and down the beach, you're not allowed to in the summertime. So we rely on other people to tell us what's happening out there if it's a violation to the codes in which our department enforces, and that's why you seem to feel a delay, and I'm not sure that the business was run in the exact same manner the entire time it's been run, but I know that we've been involved for about 3 years.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one last comment. I guess, Mike, my main concern is to agree with Brandi. It opens the door to a lot of the businesses. If we tell you yes, and then it's going to be hard for us to tell somebody else no. But the other comment that I forgot to make during my initial time to speak was I'd received 6 phone calls on this issue, and all 6 of the people that called me were against this.
Do they rent at the beach club? Are they property owners at the beach club?
Some are part-time residents, some have rental houses here.
Because I could get you thousands of these that are for it.
I'm sorry?
I could get you probably between 1,500 and 2,000 names that would be for it, that are owners.
Well, I'm not here to debate who can get the most signatures. I mean, I understand. I mean, if I wanted to spend some time calling people, I could, I can get a bunch of signatures as well, but I'm just saying 6 people called me out of the blue when they saw this on the agenda that said they were against it.
And my only comment to that is not that the signatures and who calls doesn't really matter, but did they understand that it was a significantly restricted, this wasn't people going up and down, and that would be my only question. Does they understand that it was going to be limited to property and very limited in terms of driving, that it was going to be still actually much more restrictive than how Mr. Dabrowski has operated in the past?
Yeah.
And
The
that's
only
question.
way I can respond to that, Ben, is they had just said they had read the ordinance. I mean, I don't know whether they understood it. I mean, I was misunderstood about it earlier this evening myself. So I don't know how well they understood it or not. I can't answer your question on that.
Yeah, it was more rhetorical, just to put it out there to make sure.
Are we ready for a motion?
Yeah, and, you know, again, one of my major concerns is the boxes on the east side of the dune line. You know, I think we're getting into the conflict with the public when we move it to the east side, so.
And CAMA.
And again, the CAMA issue is out there that nobody knows what the true answer to that is.
Did you want to make a motion?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that we deny the request to amendment to Chapter 111 peddlers and itinerant vendors to allow beach umbrella service, et cetera. Is that all right?
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is to schedule a public hearing on requested amendment to Chapter 153 zoning, Section 153.051D, nonconformities, nonconforming lots of record, and Section 153.100E, ocean impact residential zone site requirements, exceptions, to create consistent language for nonconforming lots. Greg, would you introduce this one as well, please?
Yes, ma'am. Ben Gallup with Hornthal, Riley, Ellis, and Malin has presented this amendment as well, and it's for a client of his who owns oceanfront property, Lawrence Christensen. And we actually agree with this one 100%. Basically, what he's done is he's come in and he's talked about lots that are old lots that have a width of a substandard width, less than 50 feet. And he's helped clarify our ordinance, and we're in full support of it. There's actually 3 different areas where the changes are made, and it would allow a lot with a width not less than 45 feet to be occupied by a single-family dwelling. And what's happened is, if you have one of those lots right now, you have to go to the zoning board of adjustment, and we have another section of our ordinance that says that it's an old throwback from probably before I was here. I'm going to say that because I don't recall when it was in. It says that those lots would also have to be less than 100 feet, or couldn't be more than 100 feet in depth, which it would make his client's lot still have to go to the zoning board. So we're cleaning up some of our language and it's keeping these folks from having to go to the zoning board, and there's probably maybe 6 or more lots in town that fall into this category.
Okay, great. And so the task before us tonight is just to schedule the public hearing for this.
Respectfully,
someone-
ask that to be done.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
Can I ask one question real quick?
Sure.
Greg, where did the June 14th, 1983 date, where did that come from? Was there a major
Before my
change
time,
made in our ordinance?
It was actually a pretty major revision to the zoning ordinance, I think, at that point.
Okay.
I think it might have been when Mr. Sturza was here, and the whole planning board resigned. He became the chairman of the planning board, and that's when they made some pretty major changes to the
So it
ordinance.
relates to a huge milestone we had in the town? Okay, I was just curious why that date was picked.
Okay.
It's a pretty big milestone.
Okay, is anyone prepared to make a motion to schedule the public hearing?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
And this would be for our July
No, ma'am.
9th meeting?
August,
No.
August.
13th.
Okay.
There's not enough time between now and July
Okay.
for
Okay.
advertising.
Okay. So there's a first and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. Next, item number 3 under new business is a presentation by the YMCA. I know we have Katie Burgess here. She's the executive director of the YMCA, and joining her is Donna Trevette. Donna's the chair of the YMCA board, as well as a former commissioner with Kitty Hawk. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Davies and commissioners, and Mr. Michael, Ms. Diaz. It's good to be here tonight. Thank you for letting us have a few minutes, and I promise we're only going to take a few minutes because you've had a long night already. I'm here just to talk to you briefly about our Open Doors at the YMCA and our We Build People program. And I love to use just about 30 seconds just to tell everyone what Open Doors means. It means that the YMCA is available to anyone and everyone. That means it doesn't matter how much money you make and how much you can afford a month. You come in and you talk to someone if you can't pay what is requested as a membership. And that makes the YMCA wonderful. It's a wonderful place. All families are welcome there. Our geriatric population is welcome there. It's just a wonderful place to be. And I'm very passionate about the YMCA, which brings me to a big, big, big thank you to all of you for your generosity in the town of Kill Devil Hills that you've showed the YMCA ever since its conception. You've been a partner with us. And Katie's going to give you just a few numbers to show you what you've done over the last year and how many smiles you've put on some families and kids and adults' faces. So thanks for letting us come tonight. I'm going to let Katie take over with some numbers because I'm no good at that.
We'll see if I'm any better. But thank you so much for inviting us tonight to speak. I see some familiar faces, and it's good to see you all. If anyone is not familiar with the YMCA, I'd like to begin by inviting you to come visit us. The YMCA is a really big part of this community, and when you see the numbers, you'll notice that it's a huge part of the town of Kill Devil Hills and this community as well. So, with no further ado, let me tell you a little bit about our mission. It's to put Judeo-Christian principles into practice through programs that build healthy mind, body, and spirit for all. I think one of the main parts of that mission is the for all. Like Donna said, we don't turn anyone away. We want everyone to be able to participate in all of our programs, all of our membership, and we do our best to make that happen. And it's through the generosity of the town of Kill Devil Hills and many others that we're able to do so. By the numbers, everyone loves some statistics, but I'll make them quick. We have today 1,800 and just over 1,800 membership households. That equates to almost 4,500 people. In a county that has just over 30,000 people, we are able to impact so many lives in Dare County. We serve over 16,000 people throughout the community annually. That's not just through membership, that's also through programs, going out and doing our outreach programs through the schools, through the health department, through the churches. So there's many, many ways that we're able to impact, not just within our walls. And over 170,000 family center visits annually. About this time of year, we have about 1,000 people through the doors every day. That does include our campers, which we'll get to in just a moment. 36% of our members and program participants were awarded some type of scholarship. That's over $330,000 that we awarded last year. That's one of the highest nonprofit numbers in Dare County. That means we were able to serve over 1,500 individuals and families in the Outer Banks. To break that down even more, for the town of Kill Devil Hills, over 842 households, which is over 2,000 Kill Devil Hill residents, are members of the YMCA today. 378 of those households receive financial assistance, and that's 881 people. 423 families and 881 individuals. YMCA Day Camp is approximately made up of 42 out of our 80 weekly campers, our KDH residents. And I actually made this presentation last week. Today, I checked our numbers. We actually have over 100 kids in summer camp this week. We maxed out all of our numbers. Every single one of our staff is on the floor working to serve those 100 children, and 55 of them are from Kill Devil Hills. So it's a great number. Kill Devil Hills residents alone were $16,000 in financial assistance for the summer. That's just for summer camp.
Katie, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Absolutely.
On your summer camp, do you have to turn anybody away? Are y'all over full where you're having to turn people away?
We never turn people away. We make sure that we find a place. For instance, we have room for many, many more than 100 children. We just have to find the staffing. To do so, we bring our program staff in. If we don't have enough camp counselors, I was on the floor last week myself, being a camp counselor. So getting back to my roots, our membership director, our business director will also become camp counselors if necessary. We're constantly training staff. Our staff are very highly trained. They go through several hours before they can be a camp counselor and watch over the children, as do all of our other staff in the other department areas. But no, we do not turn anyone away. And that financial assistance, again, we give out, last year we gave out over $35,000 for just summer camp. So out of that $330,000 for the year, 35 of that was for the 12 or 11 weeks of summer camp.
Thank you.
Like Donna said, the We Build People campaign is the fundraising effort to supply the money for the Open Doors program. We Build People started several years ago with the Southampton Roads Association. I think what's very important for people to know is that every dollar raised here in the Outer Banks stays in the Outer Banks. Out of that $330,000 that we gave out last year, we only raised $70,000. And so the rest was supplemented from the YMCA of Southampton Roads. So every single dollar of that $70,000 that we raised went to somebody in the Outer Banks. Click. Here we go. This is just reiterating our mission and that we do not turn anyone away. And it's very important as a YMCA that we do that. This just gives you some figures. We are a non-for-profit organization, and so the numbers that you're seeing are numbers to cover the cost of staffing, operating costs, overhead costs, electricity, gas, all that good stuff. So $300 allows a teen to participate in youth and government. $175 is 5 children teaching swim lessons to, and $125 is a week of camp, and so forth. And again, when a child is on Open Doors, they do not pay the full rate. We base it on the parent's ability to pay, the special circumstances that they have in their family and their life. And so a child going to camp may pay $60 instead of the $125. When you break that down by day, we have some children coming to camp for $5 a day. That is amazing that we're able to offer that and provide quality child care and have the staffing and ability that we have. You may have noticed our YMCA logo changed. It is now the forward-facing Y, but we are still the YMCA, and we are now going with the tagline of youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. That really encompasses what we do more than what we had in the past of building strong kids, strong families, strong communities, because youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility is something that we're trying to instill in every single one of our programs, whether it's with youth, adults, seniors. Here's just a few pictures. In the top corner, you'll see a Zumba class. In the other corner, you'll see part of our summer camp at the outdoor pool. We have kids yoga, we have swim lessons. Some of the things even members may not know that we do are our outreach programs. We're able to go to the schools and teach them about water safety. We are able to partner with the health department. A few years ago, we did an Energize program for the preteen and adolescent age children to fight obesity. We have quite a few outreach. One of our new ones is working with the Latino and Hispanic community, teaching them better nutrition and healthier living activities. So we're able to do a lot that you might not just see when you walk in the front doors and see the workout equipment and the pool. Though those things are all fun and everyone can take advantage of them with a membership, we do a lot more outside of the doors. And I hope that you've been able to see that within the community. Does anyone have any questions? Well, I'd like to say thank you again because your generosity truly helps so many children. In the first 3 weeks of camp, we've already given over $6,000 away. And so what the town of Kill Devil Hills does for us, you can tell it really makes a huge difference. So thank you. And I did neglect to put a couple of pictures up from the Polar Plunge. I was reminded that I should have put some pictures up of our police chief and our mayor, but I did not do that. But thank you for doing that for us.
Thank you for not putting those up.
Katie, I want to say something. I just want to say y'all are doing a terrific job. My daughter happens to be one of those 100 campers, and she's there every day. And one day she happened to be sick and was so upset that she wasn't able to go. She tried to be not sick because she wanted to be at the Y so much. So that's just phenomenal. We just recently joined the Y because you're offering discounts to county employees, and one of the pushes we've talked about here, I think a little bit, is trying to encourage employees to be more fitness oriented. And I know with the county, I've worked with the safety and wellness program there, and it helps the insurance rates as well. Are we still? And I'm kind of coming off the cuff with this. I probably should have talked with y'all, but does Kill Devil Hills get a discount? Do Kill Devil Hills employees get a discount from the Y?
At this time, they do not, but we would definitely be interested in talking to you about that.
Yeah.
There's several different programs that we do offer, wellness programs, that the YMCA will match town funds. The YMCA will discount if a certain number of people are able to take out a membership. So there are a lot of opportunities that we can provide.
Great. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Just thank y'all for doing a great job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We
Y'all
appreciate
perform a
it.
great service for the community.
Thank you.
Of course, I'd love to come hang out with y'all for $5 a day. That'd be great.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to item number 4 under new business, which is adoption of the operating budget for fiscal year 2012-2013. Debbie, may I call on you?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Introduce us.
As you well know, the Board of Commissioners have held 2 work sessions where they reviewed the town manager's recommended budget, and as outlined in the memo before you and up on the screen, the following changes to the town manager's recommended budget were discussed, and either by majority consensus of the board or the board totally agreed to for the budget adoption this evening would be to reinstate the Building and Grounds Division 1,000-hour part-time position, to maintain the full-time ground maintenance worker position held by an employee that's planning to retire later in the year, to add an additional mechanic in the Fleet Maintenance Division, to reinstate the full-time planning position in planning and inspection. That was by majority consensus, not by the total board, and to remove the recommended COLA. These changes have been made along with one other one in the Ocean Rescue Professional Service. We did learn after the budget was presented to you that we will no longer be afforded the opportunity to get the physicals for the lifeguards for free, so the $3,000 was added back into that. And we do sincerely thank Dr. Sanchez. He did that service for the town for I think now 12 years, so it was certainly most gracious, and we understand that situation for him. Also, there was a decrease in the interest income in the water fund, and an additional $48,579 appropriation from the undesignated fund balance is reflected in your budget document. And after the board's discussion, I would like to recommend that the board adopt the 2012-13 budget ordinance number 1215, and also ask the board for consideration of a motion to lift the hiring freeze. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. We'll open the floor for discussion.
I'm okay with the budget the way it's presented here tonight. I think we discussed it pretty thoroughly at the meeting that I was here. I unfortunately had to miss one, but I'm satisfied with the way the budget's presented.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'll go next. After 2 budget work sessions and a public hearing, I've really been doing some hard studying and looking at this budget and doing some real soul searching concerning it and the discussions that we have. And you know, from the onset, you know, y'all were aware that, you know, I've been against reinstating the full-time planning position to tune of almost $74,000. I was against lifting the hiring freeze for the departments and against the COLA recommendation. And I must admit, on the initial onset, you know, I was very much in favor of looking at reinstating that Buildings and Grounds Division 1,000-hour part-time position. Again, if you look at the budget, that's 16.5. I'm rounding figures. Maintaining a full-time maintenance worker, that's another 25 and some change. And adding the mechanic, and I know he's under a lot of stress over there because we've delayed purchasing new equipment, and so the equipment that we have, we certainly need to do everything we can to take care of that. So his job is overwhelming. So to add an additional mechanics, another 56. So you add all this up, and that's roughly 172,000, and that represents about 65% of a 1 cent ad valorem tax increase. Now we're talking about, just when I received this, another, and this is minor, $3,000 for the physicals for the guards. I'm wondering how much research we did to find another individual who was willing to step up and do that for us. Or have we looked at another resource as far as the guards go? Let them go to their primary physician, and a primary physician do that and provide a statement to the town that the lifeguard is physically fit to do that job. In this economic times, on a $250,000 home, and it's minor, as some of you may think, we're looking at $50 a year increase. We're looking at $60 on a $300,000 home, $70 on a $350,000 home, $80 on a $400,000 home. When gas prices are certainly not where we'd like for them to be. Retail costs are up when you go to buy clothing, items for your home to maintain your home, those are up. Our food costs are up. I contacted every single town in the county. And this is, I want to make this very clear. This is not singling out a person, because I happen to know every one of these persons that fill these positions do a fantastic job for this town. But no other town in this county has an assistant town manager. No other town in this county has an assistant finance director. No other town in this county has an assistant planning director. No other town in this county has a public service Assistant Public Service Director. We now have an ad in the paper to replace a position that's going to be very difficult to fill with Randy leaving. And I have no problem with filling that position. I suggest that we don't have an assistant there. We are continuing to increase government size. Ms. Kinney was absolutely right. We can't argue with her. Our water rates are going up. We've got the highest tax rate of all the towns in the county. Our neighbors have cut positions and they have frozen positions. Southern Shores has farmed out its inspections. The county's doing those. We've actually added positions over the years. We've added to our fund balance. We've suggested that we need to increase due to protect our revenue share. That is critical, I must admit, but we can't operate our budget based on what our neighbors do. And that's a hard statement to make, but it's a fact. Ms. Kinney was right. Nags Head has 2 trash pickups a week, year-round. We've been diligent enough to do that 2 days a week, seven months of the year, and we try to cut back in the wintertime to save on cost. That's a good thing. Nags Head's bulk trash pickup is 7 months out of the year. We have 2 days a year in KDH. We've also got $400,000 in street improvements. I've sat on this board for over 10 years, and we've made tremendous strides in repairing our streets. With us going into a revow in 2013, and we just came off of a 1 cent increase last year, and now we're proposing a 2 cent this year. We obviously need to prepare for 2013. I'm not opposed, and I don't see any problem of delaying those streets for a year. It wouldn't hurt us one bit. Wouldn't affect our ability to drive on our public streets whatsoever. We've taken care of all the poor streets that are there. That's over $400,000. That's almost close to the 2 cent tax increase that we're talking about. Again, I mentioned next year's revow. Do this. We're going to be hit with that tremendously next year, and then we're going to go into that and increase it again after we've hit it last year and again this year. And I've talked about this budget till I can't agree to growing government any longer. I think it's time that we bite the bullet. We live with what we have, and we do with what we have. This 2 cents just may put no telling how many folks over the edge that's trying to run a household. I don't know about you, but I've had to look at my budget, my personal budget, and I've had to cut out a lot of things. I don't make the money I used to make at one time. I pay more for the gas that I purchase. I pay more for the food that I eat. I pay more for the clothes that I put on my back and what I have to pay to run my household. Enough is enough. I am not willing to grow government any longer and put that burden on my taxpayer. I can't do it. And for that reason, I cannot support this budget as it's presented. And I hope you folks understand that, but it's growing government, and we can make these numbers work without this 2 cents. And if we're diligent about putting the hiring freeze in and doing what our neighbors have done, let's learn some lessons from our neighbors, and let's quit growing government.
Who would like to speak next?
Okay. I agree with a lot of what Bob said. I was at a lot of the disadvantage this year due to my health that y'all had a lot of conversations that I didn't. Just like the other ordinance we had, I've gotten numerous phone calls over the last week. It seems odd, as soon as I come back to one meeting, the phone calls start coming. When I'm homesick, nobody calls. I come back to a meeting, everybody calls. I've got a lot of phone calls from people who are disappointed to see that we're raising our tax rate 2 cents. They're not as upset if we raise it 1 cent, but a lot of people agree with Bob that they think that we have too much government, that we should be able to make do with what we have. I know we got into the conversation last week about the planner, and I know Greg brought up the comment about the land use plan and how hard it is for the planning department to keep up. But I know Bob did a lot of research, and I think he said the town of Chesapeake has 100,000 people. They have 11 people in their planning department. We have 7,000 people, and we have 7. That doesn't make sense to me.
If you know, let me correct that, Paul, if you don't mind. I want to make sure the record's straight. The city of Portsmouth, which is my hometown, the population is 95,684, and they have 10 people in their planning department. They have a director, and if you're familiar with the city of Portsmouth, they have a lot of maritime. So they have a planning administrator for the maritime. Then they have a regular planner for the normal commercial stuff. They have a principal planner, a senior zoning adjuster, zoning inspector, and they have 95,684 people in that town with 10 people on their staff. And I apologize for interrupting you, Paul, but I want to make sure I want to make sure those numbers were right. And one of the reasons that we want to add a planner is to help us with a lot of the paperwork and necessary stuff. And one of the issues was spoken about the land use plan. We have a planning board. Let's let them do the job. They'll step up to the plate. If they need help in the planning department, go to the planning board and say, what do we got to do? The plan's done. The plan's been done. Let the members of the planning board assist the planning department in all these extra needs that they have, and let them go to work. That's what they're on the planning board for. I failed to mention that. But
that's okay. Well, and I was just getting ready to say that. I know Greg had brought that up last week at our meeting, but we're only doing that land use plan once every 10 years. And it might be a hardship for a short period of time, but during those other 8 years, you're not having to deal with it. And I know there are a lot of other issues that y'all deal with, and Meredith, I'm still coming to see y'all one day, I promise. But I'm like Bob. I mean, it just seems like we keep growing government, and I'll be brutally honest with y'all tonight. When we met in January, we asked for a budget to come back to us, and we asked for every department to go through and tighten their belt as tight as we could get. And if I'm not mistaken, out of all the departments that we have, there was only one department came back to us with a cut. Every other department had an increase. We saw no cuts anywhere. That was a little disappointing to me that we didn't see some cuts, and I know we've had increases in expenses. I know the police department burns a lot of fuel. I mean, there are reasons that some of the departments had increases, but to me, some of the departments should have been able to come up with some decreases in expenses, not increases. So that was really disappointing to me that we didn't see that. Lowe's is coming in town. I don't think, Beverly, we've fully put Lowe's in for this whole year's budget.
We put 6 million, almost 7 million in the budget, and the reason for that is it's reval on 1/1/11, and at the time, that's primarily, I'm assuming the majority of it is the land. But Beverly, I talked with Beverly earlier today, and she did a lot of research, and I thank you for doing that, Beverly. And I didn't even bring that piece up, but it's about 6.8, somewhere in that neighborhood, that we've gotten from the county that she has in this budget. We will not get the full brunt of that, which I'm thinking will be in the neighborhood of 17,750,000, 1/1/13.
Right.
There's nothing we can do about that.
But that'll show up in the money that we collect this year, the second half of that.
No, it will not.
It won't show up?
What'll show up is the 6.8.
So the 6.8 will show up this year, the other won't show up?
Until 2013.
Okay. Well, where I was going with that is, we've been fortunate in Kidover Hills. Even though it hasn't been the most popular decision a lot of times, we've had a lot of growth in Kidover Hills. And there's always this competition between towns every year. It's a game we play, who's going to raise what, and they're going to raise 2 cents, we need to raise 2 cents. We've had more commercial growth, which is added to our tax base in any town. So for us to have to play the game of who gets a bigger piece of the pie, I don't think plays as big of a role with us because of the commercial growth we had. Lowe's is going to add tremendously to our tax base. And I don't think we're taking some of those things into consideration sometimes, as Bob alluded to. I think sometimes we spend too much time keeping up with our neighbors, looking at what they're doing, versus just focusing on what we can do. We only need to worry about Kidover Hills. I mean, we do get a share of the pie from Kidover Hills, but I think sometimes we worry too much about what our neighbor's doing. Last year, we raised our rate 1 cent, even though we had a balanced budget, just so our piece of the pie didn't get cut, but we made that money up through other avenues. We could have kept a balanced budget and we still would have been fine. I think this year we're going to see the same thing. The economy's growing. I think Beverly did an excellent job putting a budget together, but I think we're going to exceed those numbers again this year. And like Bob said, my house is a $400,000 house. It's going to cost me $90 a year. That doesn't sound like a whole lot of money, but I'll be honest with you folks, I haven't drawn a paycheck in 3.5 years. That $90 is a week's worth of groceries. That's a lot of money to me. It might not be to everybody in this room that's working, but $90 is a lot of money. And I take that very seriously. I mean, that's $90 that I don't have. So it might not sound like a whole lot of money to everybody, but it adds up. And I just have a hard time, you know, like I said, I've got some calls on this that people are upset about the 2 cent. And I think that we can definitely do better. I'm just like Bob, we keep growing government, and I'm not saying that we need to eliminate people, but we do have a lot of positions that nobody else has. And I don't know what we do, but we can't keep continuing to grow government and expecting our taxpayers to foot the bill. We've got to find some way to get our budget down without raising it every year, even though expenses go up. I know in my business it has been way off, And we have cut and cut and cut to the bone, and we're still functioning. And we've made a lot of cuts we didn't want to make, but we made them. And I just don't think, and I'm not picking on anybody here, like Bob said, I mean, I know a lot of the employees here and think the world of them, and I think we have some of the best employees, but I just think there are things that we can be doing that we're not looking at. So I'm like Bob, I don't agree with the hiring freeze. Of course, the coal is off the table. We took that off anyway, but I'm not going to agree with the 2% or 2-cent increase either. I think, I know this is going to sound crazy to everybody, but I think we can make do with no increase this year. Because I think we can make that money up. I think we're going to see the economy grow enough this year that we'll see that money come in. And if it doesn't, we may just have to tighten our belts a little bit. But every one of us sitting up here at this table agreed to be physically responsible to the citizens of our town. And I think it's time that we start tightening up a little bit and doing a better job at what we're doing. If that means employees got to work harder, then so be it. I've been doing a job of 2 people for 3 years. Don't like it, hate to do it, hate 80-hour weeks, but it's what I got to do. And if I can do it, people in this town can do it. So I'm not going to support what's in front of us tonight. And like I said, I know it sounds crazy, but I think we should not have any increase in our taxes this year.
Commissioner Rheubottom?
I'm going to say, first of all, I'm sorry for missing the second budget workshop. I was very ill, and I did kind of talk with Sheila a little bit and got my thoughts on paper or verbal to her. So, but I did attend the first one, and in talking about the positions, I think in years past, what's happened is some of the positions had been frozen, and that's what we spoke about. So really, in looking at this, and it had been my understanding, all but one of these positions are just positions that had been reinstated that had been frozen in the past. So we're not really growing government a lot, and they were all well justified. And to talk a little bit about what Bob said about having, some positions that the other towns don't have, really some of that is just semantics, because it's really just what your title is. I mean, some of those positions they do exist in other towns. They are just called something different. So the assistant town manager might be a human resources director. So it may look like we have a position that they don't have, but I mean, I know I'm justifying things here, but I think sometimes there's 2 different ways to look at anything. So you can flip it over and it looks a different way. So I think that we did a really thorough job of looking at what the needs were, and I don't think we frivolously added anything to the budget. Again, with the piece of the pie thing, I hate that that's the way Dare County does it. I know there's a lot of talk at the higher level of trying to change that. I really hope Dare County looks at that. It would be great if that happened. You can only hope. It would. I know that's.
It'd be great if it would.
I'm an optimist, so we'll go with it from there. But I think what we have here is the best with what we can do. I think the economy is picking up again. On an optimistic point of view, I think we can go with that. And I'm currently at this point, I'm honestly more worried about, as someone brought up to me, I actually didn't get any phone calls about this. I got more phone calls about about the outdoor display and the beach umbrellas. But I'm actually more worried about Dominion Power raising their rates 20%, because we could eat that. Honestly, what my taxes are going to go up is going to happen to me in 1 month with that. So that's actually much more of a concern right this minute to me. So if we could fix that, that might negate what the taxes going up for us would be. So, but at any rate, I'm in support of this.
Let me just clarify one thing.
Please do, and then I'd like to speak and then move forward.
The only thing that I want to clarify is when I talk about government growing, it's not just government growing in staff, it's the amount of money that we're spending on government as well is part of what I consider government growing. It's not just people, it's the amount of money that we're having to spend each year to keep government running. So just to clarify that.
Well, and I think that ties in with one of the things I was going to bring up. You know, I have no issue hearing what Bob said and what you reiterated, Paul. But if that's the avenue where you wanted to take, and that's the direction you wanted to take us, we needed to do that 2 meetings ago, because if you're going to look at not putting in the tax increase and basically cutting back, well, then that's what we need to have a conversation on, is what were we going to cut? And 3 days before we're legally required to adopt a budget, I'm sorry if I'm sounding frustrated, but I am, because we're 3 days before we're supposed to adopt a budget, and we're just hearing these when we've had 2 workshops to try to hammer this out. So, you know, I don't think it's also fair to say, you know, this town had this position and this didn't, not only because of semantics, but okay, we're also the only town that's got 7,000 plus people. We're the largest municipality in the county. So it's really hard to just throw out and try to do apples and apples comparison or oranges and oranges. And with all due respect, that's what we're tasked with trying to do in our budget workshops and the months leading up to adopting a budget. So all that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the budget as presented tonight.
I'll second that motion.
Well, Sheila, just one.
Sure. We're going to open for discussion now.
One quick comment, and I understand your frustration and, you know, being last minute, but, you know, with all due respect on my part, of course, it's my fault for being sick, not that it's my fault for getting sick, it just happened. But, you know, a lot of the budget conversation I wasn't part of, and of course, last week was the first meeting that I attended and heard a lot of the discussion, so having time to digest after last week's meeting is where some of my comments came from. And of course, it is bad timing coming late, but I wasn't available when the discussions first started. And of course, trying to digest all the information in one meeting, you're not going to think of all these things at one time. So,
when I would say to that, in future years, you know, next year when we're looking into this, because and even in the 2 workshops that we plan, you can't think of everything, and I understand and respect that. But when we're down to the end of the month looking at the task of adopting a budget, that's when maybe we need to communicate with each other outside before a meeting early in the week, saying, you know, we may need to call an emergency meeting if these are things that you really want to hash through and work out together. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to that, because that's what we should be doing for the citizens. So that's where I was coming from. It's not being upset that you have those thoughts. It's just at this hour, you know, and recognition of the effort and work that we've put into it and that we've asked staff to put into it and the direction we've given. So
the floor is still open for discussion. I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, certainly.
If you will go back to the minutes of the workshop, I made it clear that I was against reinstating the full-time planner position. I was against lifting the hiring freeze, and I was against COLA. I said I would entertain a 1 cent, and I'll go back to my own minutes. So I was on record, Mayor, in all due respect. I was on record with what I had to say. In the beginning, Mike was for a 3 cent tax. I can't find my notes now, but you guys were for a 2 cent, and I was on record. So I'm not coming to you the final hour. I just found additional information that I thought was necessary to share with the board. And I also shared ways that we could handle that 2 cents. And so I'm not coming to you on the final hour. And I did, out of respect to you, call you earlier today and tell you where my position was.
You did call, well, I called you. You didn't have any details. But it would take a lot now to go back and I don't think there's consensus to do it. I don't think there's consensus to do it. So I think we'll move forward. And but certainly if anyone has anything else to say, the floor is open for discussion. But otherwise, when we're ready, we'll move forward with a vote. Any further discussion?
I have no more.
Okay. No. All those in favor of approving the budget as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No.
Okay. Thank you. So that was for the approval of the budget. I'd also like to make a motion that we lift the hiring freeze for all departments.
I'll second it.
And as part of discussion on this and for the citizens to understand, the budget that was just adopted and this request to lift the hiring freeze, it was the positions that were reinstated in that budget were positions that had been in existence that had been either frozen because someone vacated the position and there had been a hiring freeze in effect, or I guess that was mainly how a position had been left empty. These are not positions that were brand new positions that were created. So with this hiring freeze, lifting the hiring freeze, it's basically giving the town manager and the town staff, if there is a vacancy of one of these positions that is in the budget, it's giving them the authority to fill that position. It's not to create, again, any new positions. When the hiring freeze was in effect, basically they did not have the authority to fill a position, even if a person, which did happen, moved out of the area and vacated a position for that reason. Certainly, and I know this was done when the hiring freeze was put into effect in Kildable Hills, and it's been done on numerous occasions in Dare County. If at any time during the fiscal year things seem like they're not following the budget, that times get tighter or whatnot, this hiring freeze could be enacted at any time, and that's been done so in the past. But at this time, the reason I was interested in putting this motion out was to put really running the town back into the town manager and letting her do what the budget allows her to do.
And Sheila, can I get a clarification on something? If the town manager were to find that maybe that position could be left vacant for a period of time, she still has the option to do that, correct? I mean, again, we're just putting the power back with you instead of you having to come to us and ask permission, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think on the other side of the coin, if you decide to add a position, this gives you the permission to add a position.
No, sir. The only position that you've added is the fleet mechanic. But I don't have the authority to create a position.
Okay, because the way, just to clarify, the hiring freeze that we had in effect, it only pertained to non-essential personnel.
It pertained to everyone except for police and fire.
Well, that's what I'm saying, non-essential, such as police and fire, but like the position we had where we just had a fleet mechanic or somebody leave, we have filled a couple positions where people have retired or moved on during that hiring freeze.
There was a sanitation operator that I came and requested to be allowed to fill. But there has been other ones that were frozen that you've reinstated. But everyone all positions except for the on-the-ground police and fire were frozen without permission from the board to fill.
But they still were filled with permission from the board.
Right. But that was how the motion was put in place.
No, I understand. So I wouldn't support the removal of the hiring freeze because what we have in place works. If we have a position needs to be filled, we can still fill it with the way that things are right now.
Any further discussion on that motion? No. All those in favor of the motion, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay.
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 Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next is Commissioners' agenda. Mayor Pro Tem Hogan, we'll start with you. Do you have anything this evening?
No, I just want to thank staff for all their good work on the budget and all the help that Beverly gave me, and I had some discussions with other members of staff and Debbie in the planning department, and I spoke to Randy, and a few weeks ago I tried to get in touch with all the department within the last month or so, and I appreciate their help very much in coming to this conclusion we came to tonight.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Certainly. Commissioner Woodard?
Don't have a Visitors Bureau report because our meeting's tomorrow morning, so I'll bring that at the next meeting.
Thank you. Anything else?
No,
else?
no,
Sorry,
no.
it's personal. Okay. All right. Commissioner Buske?
The only thing I would add to Mike's comment, even though I didn't agree with the budget, I do want to thank staff for all their hard work. It does take a lot of time to put that budget together, and I know a lot of hard work went into it, and I want to thank all the staff that was involved in putting the budget together.
Thank you. Commissioner Rheubottom?
I'll reiterate the exact same thing, and definitely I want to thank the planning department, because I've had some issues with some different things that I've been dealing with them a lot, it seems, lately, and they've been very, very willing to help me with a particular issue of late, and Steve also helped me with that same issue some, so I appreciate that. So I know I've taken up a lot of your time, but it's nice to have competent backup on that, so thanks.
Okay. Under the mayor's agenda, I really don't have anything other than just saying welcome back, Paul. It's nice to have you back up here with us.
Yeah, thank
So
you. It's
thank
nice
you.
to be back.
Otherwise, we'll move on to town manager's agenda.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I have an item this evening, the sick leave transfer. There had been some discussion from the board earlier in the year asking staff to review this, and we did. We got a number of potential alternatives and had presented those to our personnel committee, who took them back to the respective departments to get some input on perhaps what the employees would like to see. And the draft before you this evening was the language that was preferred by the majority of the employees. And if this does meet with your approval, then would ask for adoption of Section 13A, transferal of accrual sick leave to another employee as presented.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
I have one question.
Yes,
Steve, did you review this?
I didn't see this one until tonight.
I know a lot of the language has been pulled from other approved.
Perhaps a motion could be with town attorney's approval?
Yes, I'll amend the motion to that.
Thank you. Just to make sure we don't leave ourselves vulnerable anywhere, but I think it should be pretty tight, but just to double check.
I did see something about tax down here, and I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions related to this? Okay. One other comment I will make. I appreciate your work on this and staff's work on this. This suggestion came forward originally from an employee of the town, and I just think that's really a great thing to see for them, and probably morale as this gets shared among departments, that even though I know we weren't able to put COLAs in the budget, it just shows kind of a good step that we're looking at non-expense increase ways to help our staff. So thank you all for that. At this point, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Bless you. Anything else?
Just to thank the board for your guidance on the budget, and we look forward to implementing it. Thank you.
Thank you. The town attorney's agenda.
I do not have anything for you tonight.
Okay. Consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. 3 items on the consent agenda. The first is the minutes from the June 11th and the June 20th meeting. Second is an ordinance enacting and adopting Supplement 11 to the Code of Ordinances for the town. The approval of the consent agenda will record the board's approval of this ordinance. And basically what this is adopted ordinances throughout the year that have been put into Supplement 11. Number 3 are the budget amendments that were delivered to you earlier this week. Let me flip over there. And as they're outlined, if we could put up that next sheet, Greg, thank you. 28 is to record additional funds received for Hurricane Irene damage. 29 is to transfer funds for expenditures from Special Revenue Fund communication. 30 is to provide additional funds for unemployment insurance. 31 to record tower rental income. And 32 is to record the receipt of the PEG channel support funds. And staff would recommend approval of the consent agenda this evening as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is the second time set aside this evening for public comment. If anyone that's still here wishes to speak at public comment, I'd just encourage you to. Steve, welcome back. Yeah.
Come back up and get my pen. But with that, a quick thought for you guys. I think that the board was wise to put aside a meeting with business leaders later down the road. I want to put this one thought in your head, though, as you think about that meeting, which is this. I've been in Kill Hills for a long time as both a business owner and a resident. And I, like many of you, have seen the transition where we went from the boom to now some tougher economic times. And I'm with Paul. You know, your small business owners and other citizens of Kill Hills are working their fingers to the bone and to keep themselves going right now. And I think that the time has come for a shift in the relationship between business owners and the town and the board. What I mean by that is, I would think everybody would agree that the beach is our #1 resource here in Kill Hills, but I would argue too that second to that is the small businesses in Kill Hills. We are, as a town, the commerce central of the Outer Banks. We are the Miracle Mile. This is where and how people identify with Kill Hills. So I don't think anybody shows up to the beach and goes, man, I got it, you know, I'm gonna go home and tell my friends about my experience at the big box store. Or, man, I came to get a t-shirt, you know, from McDonald's. No offense, McDonald's, you know. But the personality of the town is through the small businesses. And so I encourage you at this meeting that you're gonna have, I think if you just polled everybody and said, hey, are you in favor of, you know, more rules about displays? The overreaching reaction to that is going to be, no, this is the same, you're going to get the same comments you got tonight and that you've gotten previously when this issue has come up. But I think the common ground here that you're going to find with your citizens is, including your small business owners who really are, you know, one and the same, is that you guys and us, we all want a prettier, more attractive to visitors Kill Hills, because we're all stretching for the same thing. We want some more revenue, both because we don't want to work as hard, we want our business to be successful, but the town needs the greater revenue too, and that can only come through the small businesses being successful as well. So here's your chance, I think, to start the partnership that sends us down the road, that shows that the town appreciates and values small businesses here. Because to be honest with you, I'm not so sure that's been the case in the last decade, through nobody's individual fault. But in the growth time of things, that's the moment where we're making lots of rules and regulations to sort of rein things in. But we've sort of developed a mature town atmosphere now. You know, we're no longer in the boom towns where we're like, hey, we're trying to hold things back. Now we're looking to further develop our identity. And to be honest with you, I think that this is the chance to start off on like a different path. Because I find that a lot of times, the only time I find myself coming to these moments are when I feel like I'm here to defend some aspect of my business that then feels threatened and my livelihood is threatened. And that's not why I want to be here. I want to be here because someone's like, hey man, we value you. How about some input on how things can be better? you know? And I think most of the other folks that I interact with who are my business peers would say the same thing. So I'll leave you with that thought.
Thank you.
That's well said, Steve. Thanks.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak tonight?
Yes.
Yes, Howard.
I'm Howard Kimball, 803 West Sportsman Drive. I want to thank the board for your wisdom that you showed tonight on the umbrellas and the chair rentals on the beach, because I agree with Commissioner Rheubottom that had we, and I think either Paul or Bob said that if we open this, it's not just for that individual. It's open to anybody to do. And the part that really bothered me was any multi-family dwelling. And there's very few houses on the beach that are not used for multi-families anymore. So my concern was that they would get out there and set up their chairs and their umbrellas, and then the regular citizens that live across the way have no place to set up their chairs. So, but anyway, I give you a good kudo for seeing through that and not opening Pandora's box, because I think that's exactly what we would have done, and I thank you for that.
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you, Howard.
Thanks, Howard.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening?
Nobody but
Okay.
staff left.
Response to public comment. Oh, sure, certainly.
We said goodbye this afternoon to a long serving member of the town, and Doug Penland and Marie Fletcher at the fire department. And I know he's talking to him today. He's going to be on vacation visiting grandbabies at the next board meeting, so I don't know if anything is planned, but he's been here ever since I've been here. He's been a great leader. He's been the calm in the storm on many a call that I've been to. He just brings that sort of presence. And Marie is probably the only staffer outside of the police department that can say she helped arrest a murderer one day. But that's a longer story, and I'll save it for another time unless the board really wants to hear it. But yeah, we said goodbye to him today, and they retire, I believe, this Friday.
Yes.
When they're both going.
Great.
So,
Thank you for bringing
Ben.
that.
John, you bring up a good point. I've named Doug through the fire department since 1984. Although we worked on different departments, I was with Kitty Hawk and he was with Kittle Hills. We worked a lot of training fires together and a lot of actual fires together. And I don't think you'd ever meet a nicer, more willing to help individual. He was just the kind of guy that would reach out to anybody and give them the shirt off their back. And he's going to be a very hard fellow to replace.
Thank you. Good comments.
Before we adjourn.
Yes, you have another comment? Okay.
I do, Mayor. Before we adjourn, all of y'all, and I know you have addressed it, we received an email from Mrs. Ball, Leslie Ball, and I know I've spoken with the police chief on item 1 with respects to the kinds of vagrants that camp out in the woods on Palmetto Drive and drug deals and fights, and I talked to the police chief today that I know for a fact that the Palmetto location has been, the underbrush has been cleared, so they're not camping out there. And the chief assured me today that 2 to 3 times a week we have the beach patrol with a 4-wheel. As a matter of fact, one of the officers was out there today, and the chief was good enough to share. It's been about 20 incidents out and about in the Avalon area since January, and they have, unfortunately, they take them and book them and they spend the night and they're out the next day. So that's unfortunate. But I'd like some response to go back to Mrs. Ball to let her know that excuse the pun, but we haven't dropped the ball with respects to doing the beach four-wheel drives and working that very, very hard. The second item, and we've talked about this several years ago, and I don't know why it's still an issue, but she mentioned stopping at marked pedestrian crossways on most is getting out of control. You know, wonder why KDH crossways do not have the state law to stop sign as does Kitty Hawk and Nags Head on the beach road. We've talked about this, brought this up. I don't know where we are with that. Somebody needs to help me, but this isn't the first time we've talked about that. We've talked about it several times. And then somebody needs to tell me what can we do with respects to that. Mike mentioned earlier today he stopped and was trying to wave somebody coming in the opposite direction, and they just don't stop.
Southern Shores has those signs too.
Yeah, and then her third issue was why can't we find funds for the sidewalks on our bypass like Nags Head has, and we need to assure her that staff does everything humanly possible to try to find grants for those types of things. So
we're putting our sidewalk on the sound side.
Yeah, so if staff or mayor or somebody could respond with the in a rather than an email fashion, but a letter to let her know that these are issues that we haven't dropped the ball.
And I'll add just one thing to that, and say a thank you to the police department, because it's not only on the beach that we have some of that happening, but I know in my daytime job I deal with that a lot. And I'll tell you, Kill Hills Police Department is top notch as far as dealing with the folks that they're dealing with on a daily basis, and actually, I mean, amaze me in the fact that they can identify these folks, know exactly who they are. And I mean, I've even banned some from my building. If I run the bomb center, and I have some that are banned from the property, and it amazes me that they can tell me that they were there on a Saturday and Sergeant such and such or officer whoever told me that they weren't supposed to be there. So it's just amazing that y'all do what you do. So thank you, because it is reassuring that you are on top of that. And so it's hard, I know, for them to do that, and it is a reassuring thing. It's sad that it has to happen, but they are trying and they are doing it.
And it's amazing they do that, working 9 accidents in a day too.
Well, yeah.
That's right. Does anyone have anything else before we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor of adjourning, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Thank you.